topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Sports for kids in America began with what we affectionately called Sandlot Ball, where kids organized their own games, made their own rules, and played until the sun went down. Then came along parents.
The National Alliance for Youth Sports was born out of a desire to bring order to the world of organized sports for children in America. While for the most part, children have a great experience playing sports, far too often parents and coaches lose perspective. This program is aimed at bringing some of America's best experts to talk about what we can do to change the atmosphere of win at all cost and parent poor behavior to one that focuses on children having a positive learning experience through sports. Here's our host, Fred Eng, the founder of the National Alliance for Youth Sports.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Why Johnny Hates Sports. And today we got a guest that I'm very happy to present to you. He was the Coach of the Year in Palm Beach County, football coach. And then he coaches other stuff, but what a great guy to have on this program, because he and I have talked about an issue concerning the NIL. You know, it took me a while before I figured out what NIL was, but then I will let the coach tell you what NIL means, even though I do know. So please welcome Brian Coe, Coach of the Year. Morning, Brian.
Hey, Fred, how you doing? Coach of the Year, that was back in 2019, so that ship has sailed. Hey, you know, still having a good time doing it and guiding youth. So the NIL stands for name, image, and likeness, and that's a way that these kids now in the collegiate level have been afforded an opportunity to benefit from their generating the money for the college programs over the years, where the NCAA dropped the ball on allowing them to do so. They won a court case, so now these kids are able to get paid for their contribution to these institutions, raising millions to billions of dollars a year in college sports.
It's, to me, kind of crazy. Coach, I was looking at a thing the other day, and there's a guy named, let me look here, Darren Menshish. He was going to Tulane, and then he went to Duke for $8 million they gave him for going there. And then there's another guy, Bryce Underwood. It was a high school player, and they gave him $10.5 million for 4 years. I mean, he's in high school, and then, I mean, what is going on? Is this crazy, or what's your take on all this?
It is crazy. I mean, I understand the aspect of it as far as like the collegiate sports, where these kids, you know, everybody wants to say, well, they're getting a collegiate education for that. Yes, I totally agree. However, these kids can't benefit from all the financial gains that these institutions make, from ticket sales to food and beverage at games to the TV rights, the parking, and all those things that these kids help generate there. And if they go to a function and sign autographs somewhere, back in the day, they got, declared ineligible. So I understand that aspect of it, but I agree with you. It is getting out of hand in a sense of the purity of college sports. I mean, we all sports fans enjoy college sports more than we do pros at times, and it's really messing that up. And my fear is when it really gets into full swing with high schools, it's going to be a terrible situation for high school athletics.
Well, you say when it gets into the high school level, hasn't it already to a certain degree?
Yes, it's been approved. And of course, everything starts out west. Texas, I believe, was the first to do it, I think. And now it's coming across. It has been approved here in Florida, but they haven't wrapped their head around how to make it work yet because the high school institutions are not permitted to have anything to be involved with it. But once it gets figured out and they figure out how to do this and pay these kids, high school sports is going to be the wild, wild west. It's going to be really crazy for these kids, the coaches more so than the kids. The kids are going to get what they want, but coaches are going to have a very difficult time managing and running a legitimate, respectable program.
Yeah, I mean, you've been around for a while, so tell me, I mean, I remember it just seemed like yesterday that the NCAA was well against paying college athletes, and they went into a big fight and everything with, whoever. And then all of a sudden, it just seemed like overnight that now we have all these college athletes going from one college to another, getting paid, to go. And then the effects of what I wonder is the booster clubs with all the money. How did this all change so quick?
What happened, we had a couple stories. The biggest one was this kicker. I believe he's kicking in USFL now. I forget his name. He became a YouTube sensation. And then the NCAA declared him ineligible because he was making money off of of being himself. And he had gotten into the whole that thing. He was making a bunch of money. So that prompted the lawsuits and things from the perspective of the players. I mean, remember NCAA football used to be really big. And then because the people are like, well, you guys are making all this money by me, the college athletes, that it was stopped for a while because, they stopped promoting because they couldn't use the kids' names and stuff and nobody was very interested. Now that all this has come back, the money part of it is being, generating. These kids are being allowed to benefit from that. I think it's gone out of control. And I think NCAA, they have to look at themselves and blame themselves. I mean, because they were in a situation they could have did some type of litigation to allow these kids to, make a little bit more money or whatever the case may be, whether we think it's right or not, but they could have been in control, but they let the laws get it, they let the law get lawsuits happen. And now this is what we have now.
You use the term of, the wild, wild west. And it just seems to me that's so correct because, I wonder about booster clubs. I remember I was a high school coach like you, and I knew the effect of booster clubs when I was coaching, and they kind of had control over the program and certainly had control over me because they would buy uniforms and everything and anything that I needed as long as I was winning. But I wonder in the aspect of the NCAA and NIL is what effect did booster clubs play in all of this? I mean, you got a lot of people with a lot of money. So, you got one guy, like I said before, whatever his name was, getting $8 million to go from Tulane to Duke. What is it to say that they don't get $25 million? I mean, the booster clubs have a lot of money.
And that's what me and my friends that we always talk about all the time. I mean, I knock on wood. Unfortunately, I didn't have a booster club at the schools I coached at where it allowed me to have more economic support. But as far as a coach that wanted to be in control of my own program, I didn't have to answer to them. So I lucked out on that. But I know a lot of places where, the small town areas where their sports, high school sports are very big. Yes, the booster club does play a very big role in mandating hiring and firing of coaches. I mean, that's really big. And, those are those things where, I just tell my guys, hey, be careful what you ask for. You go get one of those big time positions in that little small town and lose that big game with that crosstown rival, like the old movie was that Friday Night Lights. That signs in your front yard, fire Coach Co. So they're going to have a big input on that. Like I said, once it gets managed to where they know how and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable with reference to the money being given to these high school kids. I mean, it's already been approved, but once they figure it out, you're going to have what I call the have versus the have-nots. The communities that have a lot of money from boosters and businesses are going to be able to entice these young men and women to come to their schools and play.
Yeah. Now let's get down to another different topic. Not topic, but same topic, but different level. I'm talking about below the high schools. When do you think that that's going to happen? I mean, I look around and I live in an area where they got a park right across the street, and I see elite soccer programs going on with these paid coaches and kids out there that I'm saying, these kids are being recruited from one program to the other because they're all trying to win these championships. And do you see that maybe money would come into paying a 10-year-old kid to play because he's exceptionally good?
Yeah, in a roundabout way, I wouldn't say legally or morally, ethically, those things are happening already. I mean, the travel program is a little bit different in the sense that those kids and those families have to pay for those program roster spots or whatever. But yes, they are recruited to come play for certain teams as far as basketball, baseball, soccer. Those things are very, very big travel season sports. So yes, they are being recruited to come to places. But as far as the economics with that being in play, that's done. The problem that I've noticed, especially as football is concerned, is when you go to these parks and you see these little league parks being played. Probably saw a couple stories on ESPN years ago where these neighborhood individuals are paying these kids to come play at their parks and paying them for performance on the fields and touchdowns scored, tackles made, making a tackle that takes out the other teams. They are doing that, quote, under the table, and I think that is horrendous to be doing in little league sports or sports in general. Let alone, you have 8, 9, 10-year-old, 12-year-old kids out there being paid to, score touchdowns and being blamed if a team loses a game. I mean, it's crazy, but it's happening already.
Yeah, you talk about 10-year-olds being out there, with them being paid or whatever, but the reason that they're getting paid and to make those tackles and whatever they're doing is the fact that, there's guys up in the stands that are betting money on whose team wins. So that's influencing that to a great degree. That's amazing how all of this that used to be recreational sport, fun for kids and development, which is what the National Alliance for Youth Sports is all about, is trying to make sports positive and safe for kids. And yet you have all this new influence based on money. So, I know that what you've done at the high school level has been tremendous. And I know the win-loss records are one thing, but it's so great when you have kids that come back to you to tell you what you did to improve their life. It made it great because not only are you telling them how to tackle and punt and kick and throw, whatever, but how to live life. And I know that's what you based a lot of your coaching on. You agree with that, I know.
100%. I sit around countless times and I tell people, why I coach. I've never picked my family up and moved to another county or state in order to get a coaching job that would be more prestigious or whatever. I would consider myself very blessed to be chosen to be a high school coach at the places I've been. And that's the one thing I hang my hat on, is the fact that I've had those moments that, a kid came back. I mean, I had this one particular moment where I was in that little, what am I doing moment? I'm not a head coach anymore. I'm just a little league football coach. What is my purpose? What is, whatever. And I had one of my former players come by and give me a conversation such as that. And he said, Coach, I never got a chance to tell you thank you for everything you told me when I was in high school. And that meant so much to me. And the last thing he said to me, he says, Coach, thank you. And if you ever get a chance, can you coach my son? And that right there was worth $1 million. I mean, that answered my question and got my head clear and put me back in a good place for my own personal life because of that moment you referred to.
Yeah, that's so great for those kind of stories. Let me tell you one that's on the opposite side. We do a training program for coaches, and one of the first ones that we did was using a video, and we had a sports psychologist who would be on the screen and be talking about, the role that coaches play in winning with kids in sports and why they come out for sports. And we let the coaches talk about it amongst themselves. And when it was over, I thought, okay, because the program was mandatory that the coaches had to be there. And this coach came up to me and pointed his finger, and I thought, oh, here he goes. He's going to say, how come I had to come to this program? I know all about coaching and I know everything. But he said, hey, I want to ask you a question. I said, yeah, go ahead. He said, do you think I should be a coach? I said, excuse me? Do you think I should be a coach? He said. I said, why do you say that? He said, because I heard all these other guys talking in the group I was in, and they were talking about how important it was to try to help kids and whatnot. And he said, but I want to tell you something. That's not what I did. And I want to know, do you think I should really be a coach? And I said, of course you should, because one thing, you told me that this program is working. And he turned around, took about 2 steps, but the most critical thing he said when he came back to me, he said, I want to tell you something. I've ruined a lot of kids. And that has stuck with me for all these years. And then I turn around to hear your story about how important role you play as a coach. So one thing that you did say, Coach, I read all the time, and I can't believe it, where Coach X goes to Georgia and signs as to be a head football coach in Valdosta, Macon, wherever, that far away. It could be farther away. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this guy's going to uproot his whole family and move to be a coach at a different high school? Is the booster clubs paying him under the table a lot of money? What goes on in these situations?
Oh, no, it's not anything wrong / or illegal about that. I mean, when you get to those, like I said, when you get to those towns like that, like your Georgias, your Alabamas, your northern states, Texas, those places. Football, high school sports is big. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it is big. Unfortunately, sometimes it gets taken away from what you and I talk about all the time as being the true essence of youth sports, which is to help raise young men and women that can be productive citizens and be a part of a team, be it an athletic team, be it a group project in school, be it on the job when they become a professional. And that's why most of us do what we do. Some people are professionals, and this is what they do as a profession. I'm an educator that coaches. There's a lot that are professionals. And yes, when those opportunities to move on, I'm not mad at them. That's what they want to do. They want to go to that big time job and get paid. And those places pay their coaches very well. I think Florida now is in a possibility where they're looking to legislation talks are happening to pay coaches better, because a lot of really good coaches are leaving the state because we don't pay our coaches very well, but that's in talks right now. But there's nothing wrong with that, with the coaches going to move to do that, as long as they're, for me, my only judgment is, hey, are you raising young men? Are you raising young men, women when you go to these different places? If you're doing that and you're providing for your family and taking care of your own personal wants and wishes, because we all have to have a drive, we all have to have a purpose. And yes, helping kids become better people, it should be the basis of that. But then, hey, you want to submit your personal selfish mark on this sport or whatever sport it is as well. And I can't blame them for that.
I mentioned before the fact that you were the coach of the year in Palm Beach County. Now, a lot of people may be watching this and saying, well, Palm Beach County, how many high schools are there? Well, there are plenty of high schools, and football is very important in Palm Beach County. But I want to ask you this important question. You gave it all up. Why?
It was time. I promised myself that, we'll back up a little bit further. Being a minority coach in Palm Beach County when I first started, there were only 2 Black head football coaches in the county. And I was coaching and teaching, and I realized that the young kids didn't have that leader, the head football coach that looked like them. They didn't have that mentor to say, oh, I could be a head coach if I want to do this. So that was my drive to be a head coach. When I became a head football coach, you're coaching, and trying to earn the respect of your peers is one of the big things that we do. We want to know that our peers respect us, not because we won a championship, because of the type of program you have, because how your kids act on and off the field. That's what you really should be judged by, in my opinion. And went through that whole thing, and then I wasn't a head coach for a while. And then I said to myself, hey, can I do this? Can I really coach? Do I know what I'm doing? And so when I got the opportunity to be here at St. Aloysius High School, I said to myself, okay, I'm going to go all out. I'm going to do everything that I think I need to do, get good people around me, raise young men and women that are involved in my program. And when it becomes not fun for me anymore, selfishly, then I'm going to back away. And after the COVID season, I didn't see it going to be enjoyable for me anymore. So I knew it was time for me to step away, because I wasn't going to be as productive as I want to be when leading the football program.
You mentioned the fact that there were only 2 African-American coaches when you started. Did you set a trend now? Are there more African-American head coaches?
Yes, in the county. I don't know if I set the trend, but the opportunities have made themselves, we've had, a good representation, good quality coaches, and it wasn't anything, oh, you're a minority here, we're going to hire you. No, we've had, since I started back in, 91 was when I first started coaching in the county. We've had several minority head coaches come through, and they've done an excellent job. So that's a good testament to the times and change, and then everybody, that are deserved and that have the, be afforded the opportunity to coach. And I'm very proud of Palm Beach County and what we've done with affording, different types of people and personalities to lead young men and women.
I want to leave you with one last question. I get asked the question all the time, especially the name of the show. It's called Why Johnny Hates Sports. And people say, why does Johnny hate sports? And I say, well, first of all, Johnny's 6 years old, and he doesn't know, or she doesn't know what she wants to do, but their parents want to know in so many overwhelming cases. And they say, you're going to play little league something, baseball, football, basketball, whatever, it doesn't matter. So they get thrust into this situation. Some of them, yeah, they're athletes. Some of them have competitiveness, but they're thrust into it. And then somebody says, well, who's going to coach your kid? And they say, well, I don't, because I don't know anything about coaching. Well, if you don't coach, then your kid's not going to get a chance to play. So you got to coach. So now you got Billy Jones's father or mother that gets recruited that knows nothing about it. And therefore, you also recruit somebody that should not even be around kids. And then the next thing is why Johnny hates sports is you now have a league that is formed that has a whole bunch of these coaches that have never been trained, never told what this is all about. And the only thing that they look and see is the scoreboard, championships, all-star games, things that are focused on nothing but winning at all costs in so many situations. So I'm going to ask you this. Have you ever witnessed that type of situation in your career?
Oh yeah, most definitely. From little league to high school. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of these people that get into coaching for what I'd say is, a selfish or wrong reason, they taint the profession of coaching because they do what we used to call daddy ball, and they take their child and they put them in football, put them at quarterback, and the kid doesn't have the ability to play quarterback, and it becomes frustrating. Or in baseball, they take their kid and put him at shortstop, cleanup hitter, and the kid's not that. At youth sports should be a tool for young kids, boys and girls, to learn the values of teamwork. That is basically what it is. There's a very select few that will make it to the optimum level of professional football, professional basketball, baseball, softball, whatever it is. There's only a select few that's going to make it to collegiate athletics and earn a scholarship or have an opportunity to play. And unfortunately, parents don't understand that. They don't realize, or they refuse to accept the fact that your child's not that person, but he or she deserves an opportunity to try to play. But once they get to high school and you get cut, if you're not that talented, then you get cut. But that's life. You're supposed to fail or have those negative moments in life to be better people. But parents have a tendency to try to protect their child or provide an opportunity that their child will, benefit from those special moments of being the quarterback, the starting point guard, the shortstop, the pitcher, the striker in soccer, but they didn't earn it. They're not that good. And that sets the child up to have issues later on in life. So it's very unfortunate that it's out there, that it's still happening. And I think organizations like yourself, should be afforded opportunities to get into these youth organizations and provide knowledge beyond X's and O's to these moms and dads and men and women that are trying to coach for the right reason.
Wow, you sound exactly like me 40 years ago when I created and founded the National Alliance for Youth Sports. It's amazing that you're saying all these things, but it doesn't surprise me at all, Coach. But I just want to thank you very much for your time, and not only just today, but for what you've done for kids in sports. So again, thanks again.
Hey, I appreciate you, Fred. Again, thanks for hounding me. I really enjoyed it, and I hope some of the things that we talked about get out there, and if it helps one coach, one parent, I think our time was well spent, and I have no problem. Anytime you need me, I'm here for you.
Okay, thank you for more than that. So today we've had with us Coach Brian Coe, the Coach of the Year for Palm Beach County, and I want to thank him again.
Thank you.
Fred Angs, Billy Jones's father, is more than just a story about a boy and his father. It's an eye-opening journey into the emotional struggles faced by children in the world of competitive sports. As you turn the pages, you'll see how unrealistic expectations and unchecked ambitions can shape, mold, and sometimes break a child's spirit. This book dives deep into the human experiences that resonate with so many and calls on us to reflect on the roles we play in the lives of young athletes.
Well, that's it for this week for Why Johnny Hates Sports. And again, it was great having Coach Brian Coe with us. I hope you'll tune in next Friday at 11 a.m. and we'll be back with a new issue talking about the elite travel teams for kids in sports and how it's ruining what recreation ball used to be. See you then.
This program is sponsored by Sir Durf Publishing in the interest for better sports for kids. Better kids for life.
In this best-selling book, a child, while failing to live up to his father's expectations, is shamed and humiliated beyond belief. He vows to never allow his own son to face the same.